Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am back with a really exciting update for my Pandos palettes. This past month, I was able to finish one eyeshadow already, which is surpassing my goal for sure, and I was able to hit 3 new pans. It's unbelievable to me because I was so nervous with all the eyeshadows I pulled into this project, but I think I'm getting a hang of them and I have become more familiar on how to incorporate them in my everyday looks. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. I mean, of course, I'm panning so many of them, I can't wear all of them in a single eye look, but trying to make sure that I at least wear some of them in my daily eye looks, which I do using my other eyeshadows, which are in my other project pans, because I'm doing 4 eyeshadow projects this year. That is too much. So yeah, 4 exclusive eyeshadow projects, and then in my partners in cream I have 1 eyeshadow rolled in as well. And I'm also planning to roll in few eyeshadows in future in my project pan, but that is for future, not right now. But coming back to this project, as I mentioned earlier, I was able to make so much progress. And before we get into that, if you are new here, please consider subscribing to my channel because I make a lot of panning videos. Now let's start with our very first eyeshadow palette, which is my e.l.f. Summer Breeze. This is the oldest palette in my collection, and I've been working on this one since last year. I wasn't able to finish it last year, so I carried it forward to this one, and this is how it was looking like at the introduction of this project. I had 2 goals for this one, and this is how it's looking like today. My goal for this palette was to clear out the tiny leg remaining in this eyeshadow and also in this one, which I did. I was also able to make such a great progress on the mustard shade and brown and black shades as well because I used them a ton. I have all of my numbers written here for this month, and let's go over how many times I used each and every shade in here, and we'll also be doing shade by shade comparisons in here. For the very first shade in here, my goal was to clear out that tiny leg remaining, and I was able to do that after using it 8 times. And for the pink one, I did not have any goal set. This wasn't the shade I was focusing on either, so I only used it 4 times. And for the next shade, I used it a total of 14 times. I was able to clear out that part, and I was also able to move further down in the pan. The next dark brown shade, I used it a total of 14 times as well. The pan has expanded ever so slightly, but yeah, this is a really nice neutral brown to use. And the black eyeshadow, I used it a total of 13 times. It doesn't look like I've used it a ton, it's just because I don't need a lot of it, but yeah, I used it 13 times. That's everything for this palette. I know last time I did not set any usage goal, but I want to do that right now. I want to use all eyeshadows in here at least 5 times because I don't want to ignore this pink shade because there's still a lot of product remaining in here. If I want to finish it by end of this year, I would have to focus on this one, so as the other eyeshadows that we have in here. And that's the reason my goal for this eyeshadow palette would be to use all eyeshadows in here at least 5 times. And let's set another goal, shall we? I want to clear this portion of this pink eyeshadow. Yeah, I think that's a feasible goal. And now let's move on to the palettes I rolled in this year. To finish, I'm doing this project in collaboration with Fantastic Ladies. It's a Facebook group where we vote on a theme, and the theme that won for Pan That Palette this year is fun-sized or pocket-sized. So for that reason, I pulled in a pocket or fun-sized palette to work on, even though it has 6 eyeshadows in there. And then I'm also doing Better Together collaboration. It's a Fantastic Ladies collab as well, but it was submitted by Paula last year for last year's Pan That Palette theme. And this year it's an official project on its own, and for that reason I have rolled in 2 more eyeshadow palettes to work on, even though they still categorized as fun-sized or pocket-sized. They're also in here for Better Together collaboration. So in total, I'm trying to finish 4 eyeshadow palettes. Yes. So now let's move on to our next palette that we have in here that we rolled in to finish this year, and that's my Essence Ice Ice Baby. And this is how this palette was looking like in the introduction. My overall goal for this one was to use each eyeshadow in here at least 5 times, which I accomplished, and I was even able to hit 2 pans in this palette, which I'm super excited about. Let me show you real quick how it looks like today. Are you ready? All right, this is how it's looking like today. I was able to hit 2 pans in this eyeshadow, which is called Rock a Mic, and in here, which is called I'll Glow. I could not believe how big the pan is because I was using it mostly with my finger and I was swirling it all around the pan. And of course, I continued using it after I hit the pan. So that's the reason both of them are big. Even though I've used this eyeshadow more than this one, the pan is not the same size as Rock a Mic, simply because I'm not using it as much as I would use this thing, which I'll get to in a moment. So let's start with the first eyeshadow in here. So the very first eyeshadow is called VIP, and I used it a total of 5 times. And the next eyeshadow is called Rock a Mic. I hit pan on this one after 5 usage, and I have a total of 11 uses on this. And this is something I mostly wear it as a lid shade. It is so pretty. The next eyeshadow is called Vanilla Ice. I used it a total of 12 times. I was mixing it with another shade in my next palette I'm going to show you. So I was wearing it mostly as a transition shade because this is very cool toned on me. I don't mind wearing cool toned eyeshadows. I just don't want to blend my crease with a cool toned shade because I have really warm undertone. As long as I'm putting warm tones in my transition, I can get away with using cool tones in my crease, on my lid, all that stuff. But yeah, I have to blend with something warm toned in order to pull the look together. And that's the reason I was mixing it with the other shade. I'll show you in a moment. And moving on to the next eyeshadow, this is very deep and we also have a huge dip going on in here. The dip on this one is very, very humongous. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to hit pan on this one by next update. Yes. Anyway, I used it a total of 10 times and this shade is called Too Cold. I was mostly putting it on my outer corners, like it's a shimmery shade, so I would not put it all the way in my outer corners. I would put it on my outer lid so that I can blend my outer corner shade with my lid shade. That's how I used it for the most part. And the next eyeshadow is called I'll Glow, and we were able to hit pan on this one after 5 uses as well, and I've used it a total of 16 times. That's crazy. I would put it in my inner corners or I would use it to top off my eyelid shade because this is a very nice silvery sort of shade and it definitely helps brighten the lid shade. That's how I've been using it. And the next eyeshadow is called Collaborate and Listen, and I would put it in my outer corners for the most part. I also wore it on my lash line, and we also have big dip going on this eyeshadow. I think it's easier to see progress on the shimmer eyeshadows rather than the matte ones. I don't know why it's that, but I have the same case in my other eyeshadow that is from Essence 6-pan palette as well, the one that I'm mixing with Vanilla Ice. But yeah, that's what my palette looks like. So we have big dips going on both of these eyeshadows and we have good progress overall. And let's talk about the goals for this palette. I would want to use all eyeshadows in here at least 5 times. That is my consistent goal throughout. And I would also like to hit pan on this eyeshadow called Too Cold and this one called Collaborate and Listen. I think those are feasible goals. And with that, let's move on to our next palette. And that palette is also from Essence. It's the palette called Bronzed This Way. This is how it was looking like last month. And before I rolled it in, I already had great progress going on in this one. I had 2 eyeshadows finished and 2 of them had huge pans on them. And this is also the palette from which our first empty belongs. Just by looking at the last month's picture, can you guess which one I have emptied out? Well, we'll find answer to that one very shortly. And by shortly, I mean in a second. So yeah, this is how it's looking like today. We are able to finish this eyeshadow up completely. My goal for this one was to finish half of it, and I did, and then it shattered. So I used the rest of it, and I would put it in my outer corners because I was mostly using this eyeshadow in my eyebrows. But when it shattered, I just didn't want to lose any product, so I just like wore it in my eyebrows, in my outer corners. There was very little product remaining, so I didn't bother repressing that. But yeah, that's how I used it all up. And it took me 20 uses to get it all done in this project. The next big change is that pans on both of them have tremendously expanded, especially this one. This is called Right Track, and this eyeshadow was called No Mistakes. I'm gonna get to all of them in a moment. So yeah, let's begin from the start because I feel like I'm all over the place. So the very first eyeshadow in here is called Love Yourself, and this is the one that I was mixing with Vanilla Ice from my Ice Ice Baby palette because this is a bit dark for me for my transition, and it's also kind of sort of competing with pink eyeshadow from this palette. That's the reason I wanted to lighten it up, and you can see even though I used it 14 times, there is not much pan expansion, but I was using the product evenly, so that could be one of the reasons. This one was already done and no mistakes, took me 20 uses to finish it. And then this eyeshadow called Right Track, I used it a total of 17 times. I would use it in my brow bone just to clean things up. I had also used it under my eyes to kind of like set whatever product I had in there so that my lower lash line liners don't smudge, and it also gives like a nice powdery base for my mascara to sit on. That's how I used this eyeshadow for the most part. Our next surprise pan expansion is this one called Perfect Babe, and I used it a total of 12 times since the intro. The pan on this one has expanded a lot. This is something I would put on my eyelid, and then I would use my silver eyeshadow from the other palette just to top it off, and it gives a beautiful eyelid shade, and the overall pan on this one is pretty big. So yeah, for my goals for these three eyeshadows in here, of course I want to use everything 5 times at least, but I want to finish it. I think I won't have any issues finishing this all up, and I'm looking forward to expand this pan further. And this is our bronze this way. And moving on to our last palette, I would not consider it a complete palette because it's a quad, and it is a quad from Wet n Wild in Walking in Eggshells, and I hit pan on one of the eyeshadows in here as well. So this is how it was looking like last month. This is how it's looking like today. Let's take a closer look. We hit pan on this crease shade. Even though in my intro I said that I would not focus on finishing everything in here, even though I would want to finish everything, but the way I've been using these eyeshadows, I have strong feelings that I will be able to finish most of these eyeshadows, if not all of them. So let's go over each and every one of them, and I'm going to talk about how I've been using them. So the first eyeshadow in here, this transition sort of shade, I'm also using this to clean up my eye looks, like the transition and everything. And I'm also using this to kind of just set my under eyes. It's a bit darker, but I manage. That's the reason the pan on this one is huge. I feel like I'll be hitting pan on this anytime. It might be the next time I wear it, but I'm not complaining. And I used it a total of 9 times. And this eyeshadow, sometimes I would wear it in my inner corners and brighten up my brow bone. And I used it a total of 14 times. I don't use a lot of it. That's why it doesn't look like there's a lot of changes happening. All of these eyeshadows are very powdery. And this shade that they classified as eyelid, I used it 14 times simply because I was using all of this eyeshadow evenly. That's the reason. There are no dips. But yeah, this is used. And I'm mostly using it as a blush topper. And moving on to this one, I used it a total of 12 times and I hit pan on the 8th use. This is something that I would use to blend out my crease shade because this is a satiny sort of shimmery shade. It is very forgiving, so easy to blend, but for the most part, I used it as a bronzer topper. So this is a glowy sort of product. I feel like it has made me fall in love with glowy sort of bronzers. I would not use a lot of it. I would only tap my brush and would just like put it on my cheek and then would tap again a little bit and then would put it on my other cheek. Because this is dark, like I cannot get away with using this as a bronzer as whole. But using a little bit of it, I really liked the effect it gave me. I'm not wearing it today though. But yeah, I feel like that's how I will be using this palette for the most part. I think if I'm able to incorporate this as my face products, I would get more progress. Because to be honest, like the shimmers are very lackluster. I prefer more shimmery shimmers now. But this palette is beautiful nonetheless. Of course, for my goal, I would want to hit pan on this eyeshadow right here and use everything else in here at least 5 times. I think those are pretty feasible goals for me. And those are all of the palettes that we are working on. Let's go over our goals real quick. So the very first goal I have in this palette is to finish this part in here. Let's take a closer look on the side I want to finish, this one. And for our Essence Ice Baby, we want to hit 2 pans on this eyeshadow called Too Cold and this eyeshadow called Collaborate and Listen. And for bronze this way, we would want to finish this eyeshadow called Right Track. And for Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells, we want to hit pan on this eyeshadow. And apart from all of these hitting pan goals and finishing an eyeshadow, ooh, we want to use all of these eyeshadows at least 5 times each. And that's all I have for today's video. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the end. I was really excited to share my progress with you because this is phenomenal. I'm so proud of myself. Thank you so much for cheering me up because I had doubts, but you guys believed in me and I think I will be able to make a lot more progress than I had anticipated. But that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for all of your support. I hope you have a wonderful day or night depending on when you're watching my video. I will see you in my next one. Until then, take care. Bye.